Welcome to XPS HUB, the story behind the coach. The first episode is in the books, and our guest today was the football coach, the very successful football coach, Elisabet Gunnarsdóttir. Hi, Elisabet.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm really good.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. And I want to start by just congratulating on your last season. It was successful, and I saw that you're the coach of the year in Sweden. You received an award for being the coach of the year in all of Iceland. You received a spot in the Champions League, and you finished third in the season in the league in Sweden. Is that the best record the club has had in the league?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's by far the best record ever. It's a young club, so I mean it was established 1998, so we don't have more than 22 years of history.
Yeah, right. So it's fairly young. Where does this season rank just in your career? Like, where do you put it up to all the other seasons in your career in terms of success?
I don't really rank my seasons in that way, but I think I had some amazing seasons in Iceland with my club Valur.
Mm-hmm.
But being here for so many years and finally managing to take the team to a Champions League spot and winning a silver, because
Right.
it's very different in Sweden. You have two silvers. You have big silver and you have small silver.
Oh, okay.
So if you finish third, you win a silver. And when I was coaching Valur in Iceland, and we won gold like 4 out of my 5 seasons,
Right.
I would never have thought about winning a silver. You would have lost the gold.
Mm-hmm.
It's different when you have a small team in a small town and there are no expectations, but you have really high and like big dreams, and then you win a silver.
Yes, sort of like the men's handball team in the Olympics, when they won the silver. Everybody talked about that in Iceland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, and ranking a season is really difficult, I think.
Yeah, I understand. But what I wanted to do, I want to talk about your coaching philosophy and how you think things as a coach. But I first want to go to the beginning of how it all started. Can you recall like your first memory of just being in touch with football as a sport? Like, how did it all start?
I mean, I have a little bit of help of photographs, because I don't really have a memory of maybe the first football experience, but I remember having a ball at my feet at all times. And when I look at photos from my parents, I have a ball on almost every single photo. So
Yeah.
it all started really early. But I think my first memory is related to my mom's brother. So he was a big Liverpool fan and always came to us on Saturdays to watch the Premier League. And so I was sitting there on the sofa watching Premier League with him. That's probably like my first memory of this like football passion.
Right. And you played for some 9 years as a player in the top league?
No, not really.
No?
I think no, don't really remember how many years. I was not a successful player.
Okay.
But I tried to play as long as possible and train with the team as long as possible, because I wanted to gain experience for my coaching career.
All right.
Because I already decided at the age of 16, 17 that I wanted to become a professional coach. But I played 4 seasons, I think.
Okay. And so you always had the ambition to become a professional coach instead of a player. What was it that, like, why? What was it that motivated you to want to become a coach?
It's I think it's a little bit of a feeling that is hard to explain, because I was in pretty bad company with friends that I was hanging out with at home, and was thinking about quitting playing football. So broke my foot and I got this like old video cassette, or what do you call it? Like a
videotapes, yeah.
Yeah, videotapes.
Yeah.
From my dad with some exercises from the curve coaching. That's like a Dutch guy.
What did you call him? What was his name?
Curver coaching.
Okay.
It's Johan Cruyff.
Okay.
So like you would say Johan Cruyff inspired. I mean, the Dutch school was you use all clips were Johan Cruyff,
right.
But it was Curver, the coach that was doing all the exercises. So it's something that inspired me a lot, and I saw things that I always wanted to be able to do as a football player, but nobody taught me all these things. Mm-hmm. So I started at the age of 16 trying to do everything on this videotape, and kind of realized that it was maybe getting too late, but I got really interested in teaching kids everything on the videotape. So I asked at my club if I could become an assistant coach or just try it. Mm-hmm. So I started helping out in like a kids group of 11, 12-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And only after a few trainings, I just experienced this feeling of being a role model, and they looked up to me, and I really meant something to somebody. And I think that's what I needed at that time in life. And so that's where my interest started. And there was no going back after these few first trainings.
That's awesome. How did it feel like, you started as an assistant coach, how did it feel like when you got your first own team to coach, where you were just in complete control of practice and what you were doing on the pitch? That's actually
really funny, because I was 16 and assistant coach in a youth team with like 10, 11-year-olds, and mm-hmm. I felt directly that I was big of a control freak. I wanted my own team directly, so
right.
I did assistant coach for like 1 year, and I wanted my own team, and I started coaching my own team at the age of 17, and I've never been assistant coach type.
No, right. Yeah, and then you coached for some years along with playing the football, and then at 24 you became the youngest coach ever in the top division. How did that feel? Did you feel like you were 24, right, when you took over IPVAF?
Yes.
Yes. How did that feel? Did you feel like you were ready for it at that age?
Yeah, I thought I was very ready for it at that time, and I wanted to take over the A team in my club, which, when I think back now, was really unrealistic.
Yes.
But at that time, I thought it was so realistic, and I was so pissed and angry that they didn't pick me. And I tried to get in as an assistant coach, but I understand it now that, of course, they didn't want me as an assistant coach because I was way too much of a control freak. I would have had opinions on everything, and mm-hmm. I criticized a lot at that time. I think I had a bit of a bad character at that time, like criticizing everything around me, what other people were doing, and it's a bit of a insecurity, and also thinking I was better than I was. And
but it's part of growing up and believing in yourself and all that stuff, right?
Definitely.
Do you think you could have reached as far as you've done if you didn't have that mentality for a while you were growing up? Because you always demanded more of your environment.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you use the word mentality, because I've thought about this a lot. Is it a personality or is it a mentality? Mm-hmm. And I definitely think I've had the mentality that has helped me to become a coach at a top level. But I also think I had bad characteristics that I needed to realize myself that I needed to change, because mm-hmm. I think I was way too negative and criticizing. And I think, of course, the mentality was right, but you also need people around you that can open your eyes to what you need to change. So and that's also when I get my first job in the top league, and I only survived for 9 months and I was fired. And I think that's a little bit of both my mentality, but also the personality that I had at that time.
So what happened? Did you, because I know when you came to Valur, you were very popular amongst the players, and I've seen footages from former players of you talk about that. Did you have a more difficult time getting the players on board when in your first job?
Yeah, I think it really takes time to create an environment and culture and chemistry in a group. So go to a new place, and like at that time I went to the small island outside Iceland,
right?
And everybody that knows that island and knows Iceland knows that there is different mentality and there is different culture. You don't walk into that island and take over and start doing your thing.
It's sort of coming into a tribe.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's definitely, and I learned a lot from these 9 months of the island, and I realized many years after that, I really loved being there, and I think it was one of my best experiences, both positive and negative, but it made me a better person and a better coach, definitely. But I think what I learned the most is that you have to adjust to them before you start to implement all your things. And that's a little bit what I took with me also coming here to Sweden. And it's kind of the same thing, coming to a small town, and you cannot just implement everything you want in just a couple of months. It takes time.
That's a good point. Then you joined Valur, which is your home club. You know, you grew up there. And you had massive success there. You won 4 league titles, 1 cup title, and you were selected coach of the year 4 times. What did that whole period mean to you?
Oh, it means everything to me, and it's a period of time that I think about so many times. And it's funny, I think about it now and it gives me goosebumps. It's just, that's the way it is. And one thing that you didn't mention is the Champions League experience. It was like a fairy tale. Like we were really successful in Europe. Looking at how small we are in Iceland.
Right.
Always, like every Icelander, you have big goals. You always believe you're going to win Eurovision and Champions League.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and you also, what I also noticed is just that there was, maybe that always goes hand in hand, but there was also success other than just football. I mean, the players were really happy about you, and a lot of the individual players, you know, furthered their goals playing for you. And also you managed to create a lot of buzz around the women's football in that club that maybe hadn't been before. You know, there were people coming to games, and how do you feel about all that stuff?
Yeah, that's probably a big part of me as a coach and a person, that I think it's about so much more than that is happening out on the field and in the locker room. And when I started coaching that team, and we had 30 people watching the games, and it's a huge club with like different sports, basketball, handball, football, and it's an old club, like with a lot of history. So if you look at the facts, you have a lot of people that support the club. But for me, the question was always, how can we get them interested in us? And I think I've been always about like not complaining about the people not coming. Like instead, you should try to figure out how can you get them there? How can you get them interested? And I was always saying to the girls that it's like going on a movie. like if there is a big movie going on in the cinemas that everybody's talking about, and everybody knows that this film is good, then everybody's going to go to the movies. So you have to create something that will make people talk, and that's what we did. So we started like talking and working on a project. How can we make people talking about us? So we started doing like pretty unusual advertisement.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like celebrating the goals in a very different way.
Right.
And we started doing videos and stuff that we just started like a blogspot website.
Okay.
And knew that we would be so annoying, but everything was about making people talk about us. I remember counting in the last game of the season. I remember counting in the middle of the game how many people were sitting in the stands.
Right.
We were over 1,000 people, and for Valur's women's team having over 1,000 people in the stands, it was just huge.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And that's like a moment in my career that I'm very proud of. I mean, it should be about the football, winning games and scoring goals and all that. But to me, this is so big also.
And it's a good lesson because, you know, what you talk about, creating it from within instead of demanding more of, you know, the people coming to games. Because you had 1,000 people there that really wanted to come to the game and see the game. And that's, you know, that's awesome.
Yeah, it just became a popular film. Like people wanted to come because the players were enjoying this so much. You could just see the passion and how they played with their hearts. And I think if you can create an environment where people sitting 200 meters away from you can feel the heart and the passion, then you've come really far and get really far.
And now you are at Kristianstad, is that right? Kristianstad. Yeah, and you've been there for almost, yeah.
If you pronounce it in Swedish, you would say Kristianstad.
Kristianstad. That sounds almost Danish. No, but you've been there for almost 10 years, right?
No, I've been here for 12 years.
12 years.
My 13th season.
Right, yeah. And you know, you've built it up, and like I said, the last season has been the most successful one, and for that club, it's huge success. What would you say, you know, looking through your years there and just back on your career as a whole, has been the most important mindset for you to have to reach that success? Like, how do you feel you've been able to do it in terms of mindset?
In terms of mindset, I think I'm really stubborn and maybe a little bit too stubborn.
Right.
And I feel like if I've set a goal, that you just need to reach the goal. Cannot quit and you cannot give up. That's kind of what I preach every day for my people. And we set high goals directly when I came here, and I've been working for a long time with the same people. And I think for many years it was all about like winning a gold. Like if I would have won a gold after 2 years here, I would have been so happy and probably just moved on to a different place. But the journey has changed me a little bit, and I think I've learned to like evaluate and appreciate things that I didn't do before coming here.
Right.
That creating something like we have done here gives you a lot, and it doesn't only give me and the players and my co-workers a lot, but you give so much to the people around, like the supporters, the people that are working for the club without getting paid anything. And I think it like is my fire today. Is like I really want to win something for all of these people, and putting that together it would give me so much. When I came here, it was not really like that. Then it was more about just going to Sweden, being successful, going to the next place.
Yeah, so it was kind of more about you, whereas now it's more about the whole thing, you know, the people around it and the team.
Yeah, but the thing is that when I was in Valur, it was all about everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Thought by going to a new environment, it wouldn't be like that.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought the Valur thing was just something unique that you couldn't create. So it just has changed here. I mean, I obviously was in Valur for so many years. I mean, I coached the same players, I think, for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
So basically doing the same thing here.
Right.
And I'm experiencing almost the same thing.
Yes. What would you say makes your approach to coaching different? Because I've heard former players talk about that you are the best salesperson they've ever met, the best marketer, and it seems like when your reputation travels ahead of you, you can feel that there's something different about the approach. But what would you say is different about your approach, just in your own words?
Well, it's so difficult saying that you do something different than somebody else. I really think the players that have had different coaches have to answer that question.
Right.
But I feel like I can maybe touch it by saying that I've had conversations with other coaches and also with journalists through the years where I've been criticized a little bit for being close to my players, that maybe that I'm too much of an open book,
right?
If it makes sense. But I really don't think I am like an open book, or I definitely think I'm close to my players and close to the people that I work with, and that's the way I want to have it. I was always like being warned by people in the beginning of my coaching career that you have to have a line between you and the players.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, maybe that's something that is different, and maybe it can be that I think about a lot of things outside the field.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of coaches don't do that. They want to get into the office, work on the tactics, plan the trainings, coach in the games, and then you go home. But I think for me, it's about so many other things outside football.
I heard one player talk about that. She had a meeting with you, and you started the meeting with criticizing her as a center, and then you moved her to the what do you call it? Hægri bakvörður.
A right back?
Yeah, a right back. Yeah. And she said she benefited immensely from that, and I think that's something special when coaches do that. And I know a coach who really does that too, and I've benefited from that. You know, being direct and honest with players. Is that something you try to emphasize in your approach?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I don't have the filter. Like,
right.
I think I coach a lot with feelings. I mean, I think it's really important to know the person behind the player, and that's kind of what I want all my coworkers to do. Like, we had new people coming in here a couple of weeks ago, and one of the first things that I said, I just draw up a person here, and then I draw up us around that person, and it's about the player, like who is behind that player. And I think we, the coaches, the players are not here for us. We are here for the players. We are here to develop football players, but also to raise up human beings and help them to become better persons and learn to work together. So I don't know, but I can be really honest and direct, definitely, in my conversations. And I always hear that I don't give enough compliments, that I've been too critical. But
right. Well, the success maybe speaks for itself on that one. What about role models? What have been your biggest role models throughout your coaching career?
I think in the beginning it was a Icelandic woman, Vanda Sigurgeirsdóttir, who was coaching the U16 national team, and I was picked to the a training squad to the national team. And I remember going to the first national team training on the first turf ever built in Iceland, and it was really windy and icy, and I was so nervous going to the training.
Right.
But coming to the training and experiencing for the first time in my career as a player, a coach that had everything structured, like from warm up till the end of the training. But she was so funny. Like, she started making jokes in the beginning of the training. So coming as a nervous player into a national team training, when she was just joking about somebody having yellow socks and joking about the weather, and so it wasn't that serious. And I remember the feeling of just being so comfortable in the training, and being nervous just disappeared directly. Mm-hmm. And then the training was so structured and good, and I kind of just I looked up to her directly from that day, and just I dreamt about playing for her. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, I never did. Mm-hmm. So then I had a new goal after that. I wanted to be the first coach beating her, because she had a crazy record in the top league in Iceland. And I would never tell you the story if I wouldn't have been the first coach beating her.
Right.
They had lost for 2 years when we managed to beat them.
That was at Valur?
No, it was with IBVF.
Oh yeah, wow, that's awesome. That's a good story.
And we were losing 2-0 in halftime, and we beat them 4-2 at their home pitch.
Wow.
It's still the game that is like the most memorable game, probably.
Yeah.
And I think it has so much to do with how she inspired me to become the coach that I am, mm-hmm. a lot more than she would ever think she did.
Did she knew that you had that goal?
No, I don't think so. She probably read it in an interview somewhere.
Right.
This was huge for me.
Right.
I just remember sitting in a bus after that win, and it was amazing to win with a team. But for me, it was kind of a like personal. I don't know. It was like winning a trophy.
Yeah, I understand. What about team culture? You know, this is something that often coaches think of as a secondary obligation when they're coaching. And maybe because it's probably the hardest thing you do in coaching, just getting the team together and all that. And do you have just a knack for it, or do you think you have a structured philosophy about just how you go on about that? Like, how do you create good team atmosphere on your team?
I think it's very difficult to answer the question, because I've tried to put it into words before, and I get the question often, but I think it's a lot about the person behind the player again. Mm-hmm. And it's really important for me, it's really important to meet the person you sign into the group, no matter if it's a player or a coach. I think you need to feel that it's right. Like I think I almost never sign somebody that I just think is skillful and has the skills that you're looking for. If you don't feel like it's the right person for our group, I would normally walk away. Mm-hmm. And with some few exceptions. Mm-hmm. But when I made these exceptions, it normally doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important to talk about the values that we have. Like I always talk about the DNA. Like you try to create a certain DNA, and look for certain DNA. In if that makes sense. I mean, it's just about people are so different. Right. And like we're talking about in the beginning of this interview, talking about a personality and a mentality. Mm-hmm. And I think to create environment that has the chemistry that I want and the culture that I want, then I think that you really need to look for the right both personality and mentality.
Mm-hmm. And when you're saying, when you're talking about the individual, you're sort of saying like, because when people talk about team culture, they try to affect the whole team as a whole. But you're talking about just investing in every single relationship on the team. Having a personal relationship with every player on the team. Something like that.
Yeah, I was saying that I just think it's so important to create an environment that you can be almost sure that people are not talking shit about you. Mm-hmm. Like if you have something to criticize, you can take that with the person, or like with your coach or with anybody else in the group, instead of being 3-4 people in an apartment talking shit about your teammate or your coaches, because this is never gonna make the environment and the team better. So as soon as I feel that this is going on, then I will normally address it, mm-hmm. maybe first with the people involved, but I would also do it in front of the whole group, because mm-hmm. this is team sports, and if you are doing this, then you're ruining for the whole team.
That's awesome. You talked about your role model, Vanda, and how mm-hmm. she was organized. It was the first time you felt that she was really planning the stuff and from beginning to end in terms of practices. And I want to just talk a little bit about how you approached that. And of course, you're an XPS user and you've been for 12 years? Can you talk a little bit about just how important it is to you to plan every practice or plan what you're doing in terms of coaching, and how maybe you use the XPS system for that?
Yeah, first of all, now I have no filter, so I'm going to be really honest and say that when Brynjar and Ori were like showing me XPS in the beginning, mm-hmm. I was really critical. Like, I thought it was too complicated. I thought it was too much of new things. Like, I wanted to plan on paper. I was planning in Excel documents, Word documents, and I thought it was shit, to be honest. I thought it was amazing for like other people. I was like, This is amazing. We're gonna earn money doing this, but I'm not gonna use it.
Right.
So that's also being stubborn, being like stuck in old routines. But after when I hired Orri as who is working with XPS, when I hired him in my coaching staff, I needed to start using XPS because that's what he was doing. And then I had him like teaching me, and it didn't take that long time. And it wasn't that complicated. And just as soon as you start using XPS, it becomes your twin. Mm-hmm. And that's the truth, because you get addicted and you can never stop. Mm-hmm. So like, I use it a lot today, and there are new tools that have been coming the last years, like Instat and Vice Scout for football. So I use that a lot also. But you can like combine these things so well. You can take out clips from Instat that you put into XPS, and I can cut or put pieces together. And what I love with XPS is the data relationship you can have with your players.
Right.
Like you can have the monitoring every day. Like we have now, having the COVID situation in the world, mm-hmm. they go in and do their COVID login every day, and I can see their readiness. I can send personal clips to them, and it's just so simple. Cutting games in there and trainings, like we attach every game, we film every training, and we attach every training into the calendar, so the players can go in and just watch the training from yesterday.
Wow, that's awesome.
On the phone, and they love it.
Mm-hmm. It sort of becomes an extension of you as a coach, extension of your brain, really.
Definitely.
What does your future look like in coaching? Like, what are your goals going forward now?
That's difficult to say. I normally take one day at a time or one season at a time. So mm-hmm. I think it's probably the 6th season in a row that I sign 1-year contract. So
okay.
always staying. No, but I know that I'm moving closer to doing something different. I want to experience something different, and I'm normally for a long time at the same place, and you can almost see the same amount of years in Valur and here. So maybe the time is moving closer where I go somewhere else.
Do you feel like the goal setting process is different from when you were younger? Like, do you feel like it's more difficult to find the aim when you've done so many things in your career?
I think when I was younger, I wanted everything. I wanted the timeline to move faster. Like I run through the timeline and wanted to, like, I wanted so much and I wanted it to happen now. I don't feel that way now. Like my timeline is there and I can affect my own timeline. I make my own decisions. And if you think about it, I'm young as a coach, even if I feel like an old coach sometimes. But I'm still young and I have a lot of opportunities in front of me. So I just take it as it comes. I mean, you never know what happens, and I know that I have opportunities in the end of every year, and yeah.
Do you still have any like have something on your checklist like beating Vanda Sig? Do you have any like milestones that you're working for?
Not really, but I would really want to win the gold in the league here in Sweden.
Yes,
that would be huge, and that would like complete my time in Sweden totally. But I'm a huge Manchester United fan, and that's also a person that has inspired me a lot through the years, Alex Ferguson.
Okay.
And I followed Manchester United closely when he was the coach, and coaching Manchester United in the future would be that would be a dream. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Maybe that's something that will happen. But but I also have goals of coaching a national team in the tournaments.
Okay.
So I want that to happen also.
Okay.
So I have many things left to do.
What would you, maybe especially for young women who are looking into go to coaching, because you're a huge role model for them, what would be your just advice for young coaches in general, but especially young women just coming up and looking to further their career in coaching? Like, how would you pay that forward?
I just think it's very important to know what you want, like to really like identify what you want. And I often use like a rule of 5 seconds. So it's you get an idea that you want to do something. This can be all from a person wanting to start a company, or becoming a pilot, or becoming a coach for a big team. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, you get that idea, and then normally there is something behind that idea, because you wouldn't be thinking about it. And I think you need to, within 5 seconds, you need to do something about the idea. Like, if you write it on paper, you have taken the first step, because then you have it in front of you. And telling somebody you trust about it also, you're also taking a step towards the goal. So instead of just being silent, because our brain is just designed to tell you, no, it's not going to work. Like it will always, like, these negative thoughts are in all of us, like that it's difficult more than possible. So I've tried to implement these 5 second rules for people that talk to me about this, because this is what I use myself. Like, I just do what I want to do, and I normally jump into the deep. I have no idea how I'm gonna like swim up to the surface, but I always think it's gonna be fine. It's just
so it's sort of a way to eliminate overthinking when you're making decisions. Right.
Yeah, it's a little bit about that. But I don't know. It's a cliche word to talk about motivation, but I mean, how often don't you wake up in the morning and you're not motivated for the day or life, and then everybody goes through that. But you can really like turn that around. Some people can do it. That's just about hormones. Like you can eat chocolate, listen to music. You can go working out or go out walking in the sun, and you suddenly just get motivated. That makes sense. That's where you have to bring up your dreams and your questions for yourself, and then pick up the phone and do something about it. Because I love when somebody calls me and asks if they can come here to try out or come for a visit or have a conversation with me about their dreams. Like, I just love it because there are not that many people that do that. And I would have wanted somebody to say this to me when I was 20 or 25.
I think that's an excellent note to end the podcast. It was I'm really happy about it, and thank you again for coming. And yeah, the first episode of the XPS Hub is in the books. Thank you so much.
Thank you.